Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. The Smile That Haunts Me by DoDonkey937. This is a story from when I was in the 8th grade, or around that time. Honestly, I feel a bit stupid bringing it up here, but I've never told anyone, not family, not friends, and I just want to let it out somewhere. Up until high school, I usually went home with my friend, me walking and her trotting alongside on her bike. The walk home from school was in a relatively safe area, surrounded by other schools, supermarkets, churches, and little houses. So I never felt unsafe during the 10-minute walk. Not even on one particular day when my friend had to ride ahead and I was left walking home alone. About halfway through my usual route, I suddenly had this unsettling feeling, like someone was watching me. I turned my head towards the street next to me and saw a car driving noticeably slower than it should have been. I actually looked it up on Google Maps out of curiosity, and the speed limit on that street was 30 kilometers per hour. But this car was moving so slowly. It looked like it was floating, like it was trying to match my pace. At first, I didn't think much of it. After all, as I mentioned, there were schools and even kindergarten in the area. I just assumed it was a parent looking for a parking spot to pick up their kid. But things started to feel a bit creepy when the driver's window rolled down and the man behind the wheel looked directly at me. My memory of that moment has grown a bit fuzzy over time, but what I remember clearly is a man with short, dark hair and an unsettling, wide smile. It's that smile that stuck in my memory the most. It didn't fade for a second. The situation was bizarre, and I couldn't fully process what was happening, so I turned my head and looked straight ahead. But to my shock, he kept staring. That same horrifying, twisted smile plastered across his face. He continued creeping along next to me, not speeding up. It felt like an eternity. I don't know what to do. Everything about the situation felt surreal. I looked around to see if maybe he was looking at someone else or if anyone else noticed how creepy this was. But I remember people just walking by normally, as if nothing strange was happening. My only comfort was that people were around at all, because by that point, I was getting genuinely scared and still struggling to register what was happening. I even thought about calling out to some guy walking in front of me, but was too shy to say anything. Out of curiosity and fear, I started walking even slower. I could have sworn I saw a flicker of disappointment on his face before he finally drove away. It all felt like a nightmare. I felt relieved when I watched the car disappear down the road. But then, as I reached the crossroad that led to the street I lived on, he appeared again. He was back, driving just as slowly. Window down, the same grotesque, unnatural smile stretched across his face. At that point, I was so stunned I froze for a moment and looked directly at him. I was trying to convince myself that this was really happening and not something I was making up. Maybe he was someone I knew, a friend of my parents, an old teacher trying to say hello. But no, this was real. This man was practically twisting his entire upper body to look at me through the car window. I didn't know him. That smile was still unbearably creepy, and I had no idea what he wanted. Even worse, I realized something. From the direction he was now coming from, he must have driven in circles around the block just to appear again on the street I was about to enter, the street where I lived. My home was only a minute away. He was still driving well below 30 kilometers an hour, still saying nothing, still staring. As I stood there, trying to comprehend how real and dangerous this was, I felt a wave of fear wash over me. This creep could be trying to figure out where I lived. The street was lined with houses, but there wasn't a single other person around, just him and me. All I wanted was for the nightmare to end. It was just the way he wasn't saying anything, just looking into my face, that scared the hell out of me. Thankfully, he never stopped the car completely. He just kept creeping along slowly. Eventually, he drove past far enough that I could finally cross the street. At that point, I couldn't care about anything else. I told myself that if he came near me again, I'd scream. I ran straight home. Even while running, I could swear he was still twisting his body to keep his eyes on me, still smiling that awful smile as he drove away. I was genuinely terrified. The incident traumatized me. I knew I hadn't imagined it. I kept checking, kept thinking about it over and over again. I was so scared to figure out where I lived that I refused to go to school or leave the house for days. I remained on edge for weeks, always half expecting him to show up again. I've thought about that moment so many times. Did he know me? Then why didn't he say anything? Why did he smile like that? I even felt ashamed for wearing a skirt that day, thinking maybe he was just some creep lurking around. But no matter what, the whole situation was terrifying. Now I'm an adult, still living with my parents in the same place, though I have no reason to walk that old route anymore. I've never seen that man again, and I've never experienced anything as creepy or strange as that day. All that's been haunting me is his creepy smile, and how I'll never quite understand how this horror movie story actually happened to me. I never told my parents or my friends, especially not my mom. She's always been very protective, and I know if I told her, she'd probably have started walking me to school again like I was a kindergartner. And my friends back then probably wouldn't have believed me anyways. So now that I've finally gotten this off my chest, creepy car guy, I'm glad I never saw you again, and I hope it stays that way. I just genuinely hope you never did this or something worse to any other kid, ever. I woke up in a sweat from the nightmare, turning to my wife, and in a distorted voice she hissed, 44. I woke up in a sweat from the nightmare, turned to my wife, and in a distorted voice she hissed, 45. He said I never see my mom again unless she took him back. By Huckleberry Standard 6. I was around 9 years old when this happened. My parents had been separated around 2 years. Before I get to the main part of the story, here's a bit of context. My mom, dad, and I were always very poor. At the time, my parents were trying to build a house in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in our city, a place overrun by drug trafficking. But it was all they could afford, otherwise we'd be on the streets. The house was never finished. It had half-built rooms, piled of construction material everywhere, bare red brick walls with mold and water damage. It was crumbling, much like my parents' relationship and my childhood. My father was violent, unfaithful, and never helped with anything. Then, one night, out of nowhere, I woke up to my mom shaking me awake, throwing a jacket over my shoulders, telling me we had to leave. We moved to another city and stayed with relatives for 2 years before coming back. That's when this story begins. My mom and I moved into a small place, a place my father didn't know. We later found out he had been asking around the city, trying to find out where we were. Eventually, he did. I was still very young, and despite everything, I begged my mom to let me see him. A court ended up granting him visitation rights every other weekend, and for about a year, that's what we did. By then, he had a new partner and still lived in that old decrepit house. I spent weekends there, as awful as that place was. My younger brother also lived there, and we were close. My stepmom had a child with my dad while he was still with my mom. My brother is about 3 years younger than me. We'd play in empty lots using broken construction materials, rusted furniture, and bottle caps as our imagination theme park. Company and imagination can save a child's life. My father used to tell me he was going to get my mom back. He told me not to let any man get close to her. At the time, I was secretly hoping for a happy family too, even though I liked my stepmother. Truth is, he didn't even really take care of me during those visits. I mostly stayed with my brother and his partner because he was completely incapable of caring for a child. One weekend, something strange happened. It was nearly time for him to return me to my mom, but instead of following our usual routine, he suddenly ordered his girlfriend and my brother to leave the house. She started to protest, but he shouted at her until she left without another word. Then he took me down the hill, the house was on a steep hill, to a place I'd never been before. We arrived at a woman's house I didn't recognize. He introduced us, then told me I'd be staying there for a while. But first, the woman handed me a big glass of chocolate milk, my favorite. She was very nice and smiled warmly as she brought me in from the kitchen. I drank it. Very quickly, I started feeling incredibly sleepy, everything fading to black. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my father's house. My mother was there screaming and crying. He stood in front of her, panicking and repeating, "Don't do this, don't do this." She scooped me up like I was a toddler, carried me outside. It was the middle of the night. The streets were completely empty, but she didn't stop. She carried me all the way to a bus stop, and we waited, then we left. Years later, I found out what really happened. He had kidnapped me. Instead of taking me to the designated drop-off location, he brought me to another woman's house, a mistress, and drugged me. He showed up at the meeting point alone and told my mom she'd never see me again unless she agreed to get back together with him. Then he walked away. My mom completely lost it. She ran to his house screaming, but he wasn't there, so she waited at the door until he showed up. When he did, she threatened to have the local drug dealers kill him if he didn't take her to where I was, and he believed her. It was late, and she was screaming loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, and he knew she wasn't bluffing. So he went to the woman's house, got me, and brought me home. That's when I woke up. That's when I saw her, hysterical, terrified, and somehow still strong enough to carry me out of that hell. Dad, let's not meet ever again. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Medusa asked, gazing into her own reflection. But instead of an answer, she heard the hissing of her snakes in her hair harden into silence as she took her place among her loved ones, the last statue in a museum of stone. I Thought We Only Had One Ghost by Anonymoose. Halloween is coming up, and it had me thinking about a story from when I was younger that I guess I sort of forgot about until recently. For some context, I grew up in a rental house that had farmland. The owner of the land came often as he had a house on the property that he considered a sort of vacation home. He liked me and my sister and let us run around the property without issues, even let us into the barn as long as we didn't mess with anything. We went in and out of the barn from time to time playing hide and seek and such until we started hearing weird noises. My sister was fairly young and I was a jerk older sister that liked to scare her, so I told her there was a ghost. She pretty much refused to go in the barn after that, at least for a few years. To be fair, I did think there was a ghost on the property. Sometimes weird things happened without any explanation, like our dog would bark at nothing. The chickens would get spooked randomly, doors opening and shutting on their own. Especially this one gate with this specific type of latch that most of my friends had a hard time figuring out how to open when they came over. To say the least, it didn't just push open. My mom always called it the angels and demons. She's pretty religious, so she refuses to call it a ghost. I just call it our ghost. It was harmless, honestly. Didn't really mess with us in any ways that seemed harmful at all. Sometimes I even thought it was looking out for us. We had cats that ran off from time to time, but somehow always made their way back home. Or when my dad's truck door slammed, making him jump when there was a rattlesnake under his car, basically saving him from getting bitten. Even this one time the fridge door opened when I was home alone, making me look out the window next to seeing an accident on the road near our house. This story isn't about that ghost though. This is about the one I didn't know about until we did something dumb. One week, my cousins were visiting. They liked our property, and I was really into that whole ghost hunting thing, so I told them our barn was haunted. Being the kids we were, my sister, my cousins, and me all decided to take a ghost hunting trip to the barn at night. We snuck out of the house with flashlights, my Polaroid, and with my crappy old phone, then headed to the barn. My cousins were rambunctious to say the least. Both grew up in a household with a few rules and kinda got away with a lot. So when I told them not to touch anything in the barn, they didn't listen. As soon as we got inside, they were jumping on the hay and messing around on the old tractor. I tried my best to get them to stop, but they didn't listen, so I gave up fairly quickly. This is an older barn, but it had a second level too. It's where hay used to be stored. Now it's basically a big empty space. So we head up there and sat everyone down. I decided to attempt to talk to the ghost. I figured it was our harmless ghost that would maybe shut a door or something. But that just didn't happen. Nothing happened. I actually tried to do the whole, if there's anyone here besides us, let yourself be known. And there was nothing. The thing I didn't realize until later is there was actually nothing. No noise from the road nearby or normal animal chitter. It was dead silent. I decided it was a bust and we should go to the house and go to sleep. My sister was still in grade school and was looking pretty tired. So I started pushing everyone out down the stairs, being the last one to leave the upper floor. That's when I felt a chill go up my spine. I had a really uneasy feeling of being watched, so I turned around, flashed my light into the darkness, not seeing anything. I decided to snap a photo with my Polaroid as I thought the dark room being illuminated by my flashlight looked kinda creepy and cool. I was in middle school and wanted to show off that I went into a scary place at night. Silly, I know. I walked down the stairs behind everyone, shaking the photo for it to develop. One of my cousins was at the bottom of the stairs, stopped with everyone talking about a bug she spotted on the wall or something. I looked at the photo and stopped in my tracks. I honestly wasn't sure it would develop at all, but it did, and I saw a shadow in the corner that I hadn't seen. It looked like 2 feet poking out in the darkness. I snapped out of it and told everyone to be quiet and started pushing them out of the barn. They were asking me what was wrong when I told them to shut up. We all heard it, the sound of footsteps above us. It sounded like boots hitting the wooden floors. Honestly, I think we were all too scared to move for a moment. That was until they got faster and closer to the stairs. I shoved my cousins and picked my sister up, bolting out of the barn, and slammed the door, locking it. I heard a loud thud and the door shook hard like someone was trying to push against it and shove it open. We all ran like hell. My sister went bawling her eyes out to my dad, waking both my parents. My mom was upset, but my dad saw how shaken up we all were, so he shut my mom down and sent us all off to bed. We were banned from going in the barn anymore because my mom thought we were playing a trick to scare my little sister. Even she tried to tell them it wasn't a trick, but my mom wasn't having it. In all honesty, I never wanted to be back in the barn. Whatever was in there didn't like guests touching its stuff, and it was clear now we were no longer welcome. Honestly, I have no idea what I encountered, but I know now that there is something else on that farm, and it is evil. I don't know why, but I just had this feeling. If I ever stepped foot in there again, I would end up hurt or worse. I took my senior photos outside of the barn, and even that felt like being too close. Today, I finally escaped the cult I grew up in, where girls were never allowed to cut their hair, so I decided to get a pixie cut. In the middle of my appointment, the hairdresser handed me a mirror and said, "Oh dear, look, there's a scar in your nape, and it looks like something is embedded beneath it." Break-in While Pet Sitting by Brilliant Bex, 1992. I took on a house/pet sitting job for the weekend after my birthday. It was for a friend, and the dogs and the cat are super sweet, and I was happy to do it. I was already reeling from a scary encounter on my birthday, so it was a welcome respite to have a little mini vacation where I had a house to myself. It was my first night there. I'd come back from a family member's birthday party, and it was too early to curl my hair, so I was watching Ginny and Georgia on the living room TV. For reference, the TV was next to the front door, with the guest room I was using within 3 feet. It was about 10 p.m. and I paused the show to pee. Dogs were sleeping on the other side of the house, both older and one with mobility issues. And shortly after locking the door and sitting down, I heard something. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, as I'd been through several break-ins and attempts, but then I heard the door open and footsteps on the laminate flooring. If you know how loud. Then I heard a man's cough distinctly, maybe 15 feet from where I was. I frantically texted my mom to call the cops, thinking I should be quiet as possible, but when she didn't answer and I heard his footsteps coming closer, I panicked and called myself. Keep in mind, after my first situation, I became very particular. When I house sit, the first thing I do is check all the windows and doors and secure all entry points, as my dad kind of taught me growing up. I know everything was locked, but I'm sobbing on the phone and panicking on the toilet seat, hoping the cops get there in time and I don't end up another statistic. Then I heard the footsteps recede and the back door close. The operator informed me the cops were there, but I'd have to come out to let them in. I've got some really bad stories, but unlocking that door, running to the front door to unlock it, and basically falling outside was up there for terrifying moments in my life. They checked the house. They didn't believe me. The back door was not particularly secure, as it was the same kind I have on my bedroom at my place. It's the kind you can turn the lock and close behind you, so of course the place was locked up. Once again, slept with a knife under my pillow, and that's for the maybe 45 minutes I actually slept. The man who barged into the house I was watching, I don't know who you are or what you wanted, but I'd like to never meet you. I woke up to the sound of my daughter laughing in the hallway, even though she's been missing for weeks. When I ran to hug her, the thing wearing her face whispered, "Found you." And with that, our time together is coming to an end. If you have stories you'd like me to narrate, whether true or fictional, you can send them my way 3 different ways. All the links are down below for you guys. And of course, I'd like to thank the writers who let me read their stories this evening. A guy in his car, with the window down, just smiling at a school-age girl that he doesn't know, is bloody creepy. I'm really happy that OP trusted her gut and just got away from them. And to circle a block just to appear at another corner, it's just really creepy. And then the dad who kidnapped his own daughter just so he could get back with his ex, he screams a narcissist. He's perfect and amazing, and she should never have left him. Even though he has another mistress, another girl, and another kid. I'm happy that she was able to threaten him to get her kid back, and apparently it wasn't really a threat. It was a guarantee. I love when I see women who are able to do stuff like that. I'm so proud of your mother, OP, and I'm so happy you were able to get away. And then we kind of had a ghost story about the barn, just a creepy encounter there, and never being welcomed back into the barn. Even taking photos in front of it was just too much. I'm happy you listened to your gut and never went back in. Whatever is in there does not want you back. And then pet sitting when you know you had everything locked and someone just walks in. I'm happy they left before anything bad happened, but that is creepy to have to leave the bathroom to open the door to let the cops in. You don't know if a person's still really in there, if the footsteps only led so far and they were still in the house somewhere. I'm very happy that it didn't turn any worse, and sadly the dogs were too old to really do anything either. Please remember to trust your gut and do whatever you think you can to get out of a situation, whether it's being weird, texting your mom to phone the cops for you, or of course if they don't pick up, phoning the cops yourself. But never ever let them take you to a second location. Your chances of survival are very slim after that. Now, if you enjoyed these stories, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. And of course, I would absolutely love a comment, and if you are this far, please write VIP in it. If you're listening on the podcast and are able to, please leave me a review and also a comment. If you'd like to help this channel and podcast grow, please share it with anyone who might enjoy it. It helps quite a bit. But if you're willing to help in a more financial way, I do have Patreon and memberships where you get early access and a few other bonuses as well. But if you'd like to do more of a one-time thing, I do have Buy Me a Coffee, PayPal, and Super Thanks. But as always, guys, thank you for watching and listening. It always has and always will mean the world to me. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.